Welcome to Viewing Africa. I am Dr. Spello. Now, in the face of unprecedented global crisis brought forth by the COVID-19 pandemic, ordinary individuals transformed into extraordinary heroes. Tonight on Viewing Africa, we look into a collection of stories which unveils the inspiring journeys of those who selflessly dedicated themselves to combating the virus, leaving an indelible mark on humanity. We delve into the stories of these courageous heroes who are not medical professionals, but yet, in the face of adversity, showcased unwavering bravery and compassion. Let's begin Viewing Africa, shall we? Let's begin with Zimbabwe, where lawyers COVID-19 sculptures in what feels like a different universe. These days, before the arrival of COVID-19, David Ngureme would be found in the weekends, in the weekdays, having his shirt and long hours in his law firm. But the restrictions of movement due to COVID-19 meant that the barrister suddenly found himself with time on his hands. Instead of letting it go or worry him, he took out time to start doing something he has always loved, which is sculpture. Now let's take a look at this story. Just like millions around the world, and despite practicing social distancing, masking and hand hygiene, David found himself at the receiving end of COVID-19's impact, with an accompanying losses and grieving. At the beginning of 2021, David decided to fight back.
My art focuses much on issues that pertain to the world, that is the past, present, and the future. I use different mediums and stones, ranging from different colors, depending on the geographical settings that we find them here in Zimbabwe. I've done several sculptures which have gone trending, and I am currently working on a very big exhibition on the COVID pandemic.
The government of Zimbabwe launched its mass vaccination campaign aimed at immunizing 2/3 of the country's 15 million people by the end of the year. The exercise was met with misinformation within the society. David, who by this time had become well practiced in the art of wood and stone sculpture, saw these as an opportunity to help cement the government's life-saving messages in people's minds by putting his rekindled passion to work.
Stone sculpture remains a medieval way in which messages were presented and portrayed. Up to now, we still see some sculptures which are done as back as 15 something by great artists like Leonardo da Vinci, and those artworks still stand and still present the messages of their times. So I feel that I'm capturing history in its moment and in its time as it is happening.
Since the beginning of 2021, he has created 8 intriguing rock sculptures which he is using to disseminate COVID-19 awareness messages to the society and also encourage vaccinations through open space exhibitions and on social media. One of David's pieces has gained local acceptance and has afforded him an opportunity to contribute in the fight against the deadly virus. This sculpture that you see on your screen. Now, in this next story, Ghana's first infectious disease center building, a 100-bed hospital in 91 days, may seem unrealistic, but faced with unprecedented healthcare challenges caused by COVID-19, ordinary Ghanaians not only built the country's first infectious disease isolation and treatment center, but did also all of that in record time, a feat that makes the founder of the project, Senyor Hosi, extremely proud today. Let's take a look at the story. Senyor Hosi, a young chief executive, had felt the real threat of COVID-19 after the country recorded its first case in March of 2020. The country began shutting down schools, suspending social gatherings, and imposing lockdowns in some areas. Ghana at that time had only 8 beds set aside for COVID-19 patients, negligible for a population of over 30 million. This startled revelation, says Hosi, led to the building of Ghana's first ever infectious disease center, a $5 million hospital project that is now heavily reliant on Ghanaians' sense of civic duty and patriotism.
These men and women inspire hope for a great future for Ghana and affirm the fact that we have it in us to excel and compete.
The private sector-led effort in Accra mobilized resources from partners and the citizenry to set up the hospital in a bid to replenish depleted intensive care units in Ghana.
On the project, as you've heard, side by side with the men, 15 to 20 hours daily as project architects and engineers. And we are really grateful for their enterprise, dedication, and competence.
Hosi, a graduate of the University of Ghana with a master's degree in business administration, is one of the most sought-after economic fiscal policy experts in the country. With widespread recognition, including being recognized as one of Ghana's 20 under 40 influential business leaders. But he says the impact of COVID-19 shutdown had roiled him. He turned to see what could be done to help alleviate the virus impact. It remains difficult to see how the task was completed in such a remarkable time. But desperate times, they say, calls for desperate measures. Let's look at the next story. Changing stereotypes about people living with disability in Africa and about who can and cannot pursue their dreams, high-tech or not, is very much a part of Mercy Sampson's daily life. Mama Robotic, as she is called, as a young deaf girl living in a country that provides very little support for those with disability, Mercy Sampson seemed likely to grow up destitute. Now 18, a teen who lost her auditory ability at age 3 is having none of that. She gained national recognition when she invented a robot that dispenses hand sanitizer and then developed a prototype for a firefighting robot. Let's look at these stories. Born in the city of Jos, Nigeria, the high school student's life took a dramatic turn when at the age of 3, she was diagnosed with hearing loss. Her parents tried in vain to seek for medical intervention, but eventually they resigned to enrolling her into a deaf school. This unconditional love seems to have ignited an optimism in Mercy. She's fascinated by robots and artificial intelligence, and she chooses to pursue a technology-oriented education. Reports have it that the future is intelligent, and Africa wants a slice of that future. Rapidly evolving in AI technology is expected to solve some of Africa's most pressing challenges. And for Mercy, however, she exudes confidence in the future of the continent. She believes there is nothing she cannot create with her robots. The 18-year-old deaf girl says that for her, artificial intelligence is like playing computer games.
Coronavirus, I made a project of hand sanitizer so people do not have to touch to spread the disease.
Mercy's teacher, Winnie Beatrice, recounts how Mercy was the first to figure out how to operate a robot while everyone else struggled. A night before a competition which launched Mercy into a national hero, the Make X Robotics regional competition in Abuja. Mercy wowed the country by leading an all-deaf team to make tops at the event.
We have made in scratch, made animations, fish animations, driving animations, games back and forth, many things.
Winnie Bitrus is the co-founder of African Deaf Tech Technology, and he started the initiative out of concerns that the tech industry was booming and the deaf were left behind.
Science is not for the deaf. This is what we have been fighting, for ages. Today I've not seen a deaf school where they offer science class. In fact, in the few inclusive schools, we have to really battle.
Mercy has been exceptionally lucky in linking up with Bitrus, Winnie. One of the hurdles for deaf Nigerians is that they only are allowed to study art-related courses. However, Mercy exudes confidence that her success will trailblaze not just for the deaf persons but all living with disability on the continent. Her favorite invention is the robotic dispenser, which dispenses sanitizer when it senses a hand during COVID-19. How do you feel about COVID-19? Nostalgia, right? So many memories from COVID-19 beyond the call of duty. Indeed, not all heroes wear capes. Hope you enjoyed this week's episode of Viewing Africa. Visuals for this week's episode was provided by Bird Story Agency, an arm of Africa No Filter. Now that's all that we can take on News Live, but before we go, a recap of our top stories. Military High Command gives senior officers Monday 3rd July to voluntarily retire from service. NPA began evacuation of overtime cargoes to help decongest the port. Plus, European Council reiterates EU support for Ukraine. Many thanks for watching. I am Dorcas Bello. Do make sure you enjoy the rest of our programs. It's good night from our studios right here in Abuja.